This is the Rome Ravine snowboard. It's picked up numerous Whitelines 100 awards over the years, and for very good reason. It's quite possibly the most versatile directional snowboard we've ever ridden.
Right, where do we start? This is one of those boards that unlocks so much potential for so many riders. It's got a shape and a profile that lends itself to all-mountain freeriding, with a flex that sits more on the freestyle friendly end of the scale. And if you ask us, that combination's about as good as it gets. First up, how did it fare in the powder? Well, the feedback from our test team was pretty unanimous. It rips. And that's not surprising really. It's got a tapered outline, a setback stance, and a directional camber profile with the rocker zone starting all the way back here and running out to the end of the nose. To take a closer look here, this is Rome's Diamond 3D profile. Now, just about every brand out there has their own take on a 3D base, and they're really effective at increasing float and reducing friction at the front of the board. But I especially like how this one works. So these wings on either side displace snow out from under the nose and help to keep it floating above the surface, but they don't run super far beyond the contact points. Now, as a result, we found that the Ravine still keeps that slightly snappier response that you'd more commonly find on a more traditional camber profile, but it still gives you the vast majority of benefits that you get from other 3D profiles. Now, you'll definitely feel the biggest benefit of that nose in the deepest conditions, but it will help to smooth out turn initiations on more chopped up variable conditions back on the piste. And speaking of which, man, does this thing fly on the groomers. Looking at the tail of the board, there's a really lively camber that's positioned right under the back foot, and then two carbon stringers that run out from the rear inserts towards the contact points in the tail. And that offers up a ton of response and power at the back of the board, but it also dials the ollie power right up to the nines. On that note, let's talk about its freestyle performance. Now, Rome described the Ravine as an all-mountain charger with a freestyle-friendly flex, and I think that perfectly sums it up actually. It's a long way off a park board, obviously, but there is more than enough tail to work with if you're riding in switch, and the flex is also definitely on the more forgiving end of the spectrum at a 6 out of 10. And honestly, that powder-focused nose is actually super fun for getting creative with. So who's the Ravine for? Well, that's a tricky one because I firmly believe that every rider of an intermediate level and up would get on super well with this thing. If you think you can justify going for something stiffer, faster, and more responsive, then there's a spec'd up select version of the Ravine. Everyone else, seriously consider adding this one to your locker. The Ravine is one of very few boards that perfectly bridges the gap between freestyle and freeride, and in the end, the result is something completely original and insanely fun to ride. Put simply, it feels like a dedicated powder board when the snow's pumping and a proper workhorse in variable conditions. And it has as much freestyle flair as many directional twins in the market. It's a pretty deadly combination if you ask us. Thanks for watching, guys. Please stick any questions down below if you have, and if you want to see more reviews for our top 100 snowboards of the year, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That's it for me. See you next time.